welcome back to Pastor Garlic's Kitchen, Crunchy Pork Edition. Woo! So I have in the studio with me, which is my kitchen, my inspiration, my cook inspiration. It's my mom, Shirley. She asked not to be videoed, but I'll wave your hand underneath the thing. There. All right. So that's the closest you're going to see of her. But we're going to make crunchy pork today. And I bought some pork belly rind on. And this is from S-Mart in Bellevue. And boy, I tell you, this is a great deal because it's only $3.79 a pound. And it's actually relatively thin cut. So probably about less than an inch high, which means that the thing you're after, that I'm after, is the crunchy pork, which is the skin, the rind. And so if it's not as thick, then you don't have to pay as much for all the extra pork. So I'm going to unwrap this and then show you where we go from there. So you see we got it out of the package, and there's still branding on this pig. But it's kind of damp, and so I'm going to take a paper towel and just kind of wipe it down. And then here's the secret, all right? This is the secret to making good crunchy pork. It's right here. This is a meat tenderizer. And what I'm going to do, and you can see it, it's these sharp little prongs underneath. And I am just going to take it, and I'm going to just punch a whole bunch of tiny little holes in this. And you want to just make tons of little tiny holes. And let me explain why once I finish here. Okay, so when you have all these holes here, what it's going to do is it's going to allow the moisture out. Because what makes it crispy is when it gets crisped up, and I'm going to do this under the broiler. And you can't do that if there's too much moisture in it. So this kind of pounded down the side pork and the pork belly, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some salt and put that on here. So I've got my salt, and I'm just going to kind of sprinkle it on the top. And you want to be pretty liberal with your salt. You're not going to ingest all this salt, so don't worry, cardiologists. And what I'm doing is I'm going to sprinkle salt on here, because what the salt does is it draws the moisture out. Okay, so there's a good kind of layer of salt on here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw this in the refrigerator for just like 10 minutes, so not long, and you'll see what happens and what the salt does. So I'll be back in a couple minutes. So as you can see now, we've gotten this out of the fridge after like 10 minutes, and it's very, quite a lot of moisture has come to the top. To illustrate that, I'll grab a paper towel. So now, you can see here, just blotting it, the paper towel gets soaked. So there's a lot of moisture that's come up. And so basically I'm just going to come and I'm just going to wipe this off. I'm going to wipe off the salt, and the salt is just saturated with moisture and water. You can see kind of it shining, glistening on the top. And then I'm going to take my knife. I only have two hands, so but what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold up the side of pork, and then I'm going to just scrape the salt and the moisture off with, oops, there we go. Scrape the salt and the moisture off with the knife. And then that'll be dry enough for me to go ahead and put it in the oven. All right. Okay, so I got the salt off. I scraped it with my blade, and then I'm going to put it face down now, and then throw it in the oven and put it on broil. And so this is going to go in the oven probably just for probably about 10 minutes, and then I'm going to turn it over, and then that'll be the fun. You'll see it crisp up on the other side. Now when I put it in the broiler, I put it on the second rack shelf level, because if I put it on the top shelf, then it's going to be way too close to the element and it'll burn. So I put it on the second shelf. I propped it up a little bit. There's a little, our internal convection microwave plate. I put it upside down in there so that it pushes up a little bit higher. Because if it's just the second rack level, it's a little bit on the low side. But I'm just going to let it broil here for a few minutes, and then we'll be back. I'll look at the time to tell you kind of how long I've done it. All right. Okay, we've been going about 7 minutes. I'm just taking a little look in here, and it's going to need some more time. It's probably at least another 5 minutes or so. All right, we've been in 12 or 13 minutes, and I think that this looks pretty good. It's kind of browned on the top, and looks like we could just turn it now. And so I have my tongs here, and I'm just gonna just flip it over, and let's see. And you can see here the way that it's gotten cooked a little bit, but we're gonna brown it now on the top, and it's gonna get nice and crispy. That's our goal. So I see how it's kind of uneven here. I may cut this piece of pork off the bottom and just let that cook on the side, so that way it's just flatter, because ideally you want to have it just be level, so that way one part doesn't cook more than the other. So I'll do that, and then I'll throw it back in. Okay, we've been roasting it on the for about 10 minutes now, but it's less critical what the clock says and more critical kind of how it looks. And so so it's starting to see it. If you can see, it's starting to pop up, and that's what we want. We want it to start to get crispy. And so I'm just going to now just monitor it and keep an eye to make sure that it's not burning, and let it get nice and crispy. Well, as you can see, it's starting to crisp up. Yeah. Look at that. Yep. Yeah, it's separating from the... Yeah, it's starting to pop. So we're going to leave it in there, let it keep cooking. It's probably been about 20 minutes now. So as you can see, a part of it got a little bit burnt. And so what I need to do is I'm actually going to just kind of manually hold it up to the element to try and get it to get cooked on this section. So if you can see here, I'll just hold it up here pretty close, and you can see it just start to get finished.
Cook the other side a little longer than...
No, I don't think it really matters, because it's the top side that needs a little bit more. And so as you can see, I'm holding it right up there next to it, and once it starts to bubble, see that it's starting to bubble, starting to get cooked. And so I'm trying to do that without letting the rest of it burn. But because you want it to be kind of popped like that, have that look. You can see here that I'm just holding it right up next to the element, almost right touching it, super close. And it's just getting nice and crispy there. My hand's getting hot holding it, but you can see it's gonna be nice and crispy. Middle's starting to get a little bit brown, so I gotta be careful that it doesn't burn. Our guy on the other side seems to be doing just fine, so I'm just letting that one go on its own. But this one, I had to kind of manually hold it. You can see it's getting nice and crispy now, but I'm gonna hold it a little bit more. So here we are. This is our finished product. It got a little bit burnt right here on the edge, but that's all right. It looks yummy and tasty and crunchy. You can get the knife and we'll see. That's the sign of good crunchy pork. Oh, yum, yum, look at that. Okay, well, we better go sample it now. I'm glad I had my assistant grandma here, and hope you will enjoy that. Guess you won't get to enjoy this, that's because we get to. But anyway, thanks for tuning in. Pastor Garlic's Kitchen Crunchy Pork Edition.